And now let's turn to Israel. She's asked by Dana Bashir about what her position is on Israel, and she essentially repeats exactly what she said at the convention and exactly the Biden administration line.
In chief, President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza.
Nope.
He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. Mm-hmm. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
In the meantime,
and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done. When you look at the significance of this to the families, to the people who are living in that region, a deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war, but will unlock so much of what must happen next. I remain committed since I've been on October 8 to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
Okay, so
yeah.
I think people are running with the no a little bit. It's more, to me, a dismissal than it is an outright declaration of policy. She's trying to not declare anything, right? She's trying to just get through it, get to the other side. It wouldn't be smart for her to just unilaterally declare policy, even if she agrees with Biden. Let's just stipulate that, right? It wouldn't be smart for her to be like, yeah, I'm concretely doing exactly what he's doing, because she's not in the position to do that yet, right? But still, this is so insufficient, and I don't think that she can get through this election with that by just trotting that line out like that. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I mean, like, in some ways, she's had the same conundrum as Herbert Humphrey running in '68, where he's like a vice president. The president's not running, but the president is still the president and is still carrying out an unpopular policy. In Lyndon Johnson's case, a very unpopular policy of the Vietnam War, and it's very hard for a vice president to be critical. But actually, like in '68, towards the end of the election, Humphrey starts to distinguish himself more from Lyndon Johnson, and that was the point where he started to improve in the polls. Ultimately, not enough to win, but I mean, like, it is a sort of significant thing that, like, at a certain point, people are interested in like a new messaging, and like it doesn't have to be like super specific. Like, like one could say, like as Eisenhower did in like '52, like I will go to Korea. So, like I think if she said, like we have to get a deal. If it's not done now, like I'm gonna go to do the negotiations myself in person. Just something to indicate that there's going to be something different. I mean, I think politically that would be the much smarter move than what they're doing now. And
Elizabeth Warren gave her this suggestion. She went on television and she said, "You just have to say I'm going to follow the law." The thing that Harris doesn't want to do is also to implicate Joe Biden in not following the Leahy law, which he's
Being
not.
a war criminal.
But
Yeah.
right, but that's that's what she should do, right? But
Yeah.
they need to throw the old man overboard at some point.
And they have to, and I mean, it's just such a delicate situation because I think it was very hard to, get Biden to not do it. And one sees, like, there's a lot of evidence that Biden is trying to entrench his own policy. Like, I think people underestimate the degree to which Biden, or at least Biden's handlers, which might be more plausible, the sort of national security team he has around, they are like ideological true believers in this approach. They think that this is the way to go. And there's been some good reporting in the Huffington Post about some recent appointments that Biden has made to like national security posts, which is like, people who think along the same lines as like Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken. And I think the idea is to sandbag Harris to make sure that it'd be very hard for her to maneuver and to change policy. I think we have to understand that dynamic as well. Like we think Biden's out of the way. He's no longer there, but he's actually president, and more importantly, his foreign policy team is still the team. I don't know. I mean, another possible way is some of her surrogates, some of the people who are her foreign policy advisors could be, putting out statements or putting out feelers. It's a very hard position to be in, but it's frankly a crappy thing. I mean, like it's part of Joe Biden's crappiness, but also the broader crappiness of the political party that they are like unwilling to do this. And I'll emphasize, like, this is a very close election. Like they were going to lose under Biden. Now they have a chance to win under Harris, but it's by no means a sure thing. We shouldn't be taken away by the politics of joy and all this like feel good that we have. Like if you actually look at the polls, like she's like has a small lead in the swing states now, but it's a small lead. Trump often polls above his polling numbers. It would only take a very small polling error for Trump to win. And in that situation, like to alienate like a significant chunk of your own voters on this issue, seems like I don't know. It's hard to describe the sort of madness.
The continued efforts to not be specific about any change is it's not tenable. And if there are a lot of people in the IM saying, no, this is her position. This is exactly what her position is. We've laid out this on the show, my view on this, and I can repeat it right now. People can disagree with me if they'd like. But no Democrat is going to be sufficient on this topic. We can hope for somebody who can be pushed. My view is that she's more pushable than Biden, and that the people she surrounds herself with, like Phil Gordon, her national security advisor, has better policy as it relates to the Middle East that's more focused on de-escalation and less ideological Zionism. Jeet, I'm wondering if that's your view as well on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the key here is that Biden's team is very focused on Iran and the idea that you have to absolutely build this alliance system, the Abraham Accords, between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And there's reporting that Biden still thinks that. He thinks that he can still do this.
That was a Trump policy that Biden's continuing.
Yeah. It's a bipartisan policy. And as long as that's the policy, then there's every incentive to give Israel a kind of free reign. But I mean, I think that, like, for me, the hope in terms of like sort of realpolitik, the people who man American foreign policy are never going to think the way you and I do. But I mean, there is a kind of realpolitik case for disengagement, for de-escalation. And there's two strands of this. One is that the Iranian government itself has given a lot of indication that they're open to this. One is that they've actually shown a huge amount of restraint in responding to Israeli provocation and Israeli attempts to escalate this war. And the second is Iranian voters themselves, like in a surprise that took everyone, no one was expecting, elected someone who's supports negotiating with the United States and starting up again a nuclear deal. Given that reality, and given the fact that Harris has people around her who are also open to negotiations like Phil Gordon,
Yep.
there's a real possibility that the fundamental structure could change, and that would give her a huge once you stop making Iran the boogeyman and think of this as a regional player you have to make a deal with. That gives you a huge amount more room to actually hold Israel and I have to say Saudi Arabia accountable.
And apparently Iran, is looking to, I mean, they're displaying this with their restraint with Israel. They want to re-engage with the West. They want to have a better relationship with the United States and the players in the West as well, for their own aims, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, their economy has been suffering. And I have to say, this is not just the Iranian leadership. I mean, who knows what they think, but the Iranian people themselves in the most recent election have made it very clear that they themselves do not favor escalation and, are open to restarting talks with the United States. And so there's actually a great opportunity. And I would actually say, if Harris were not bound by Biden, if he were not this anchor that's dragging her down, the real star case you could make, and I think it would be a very successful case, is that if you get Trump, he's the guy that went around assassinating Iranian generals and pulled out of the Iran nuclear talk and is all in favor of these policies that will escalate a larger war in the Middle East. And I'm open to talking. That would actually be a pretty compelling difference between the arguments and would win over a lot of people that are skeptical of her. Would basically say it would be a choice between someone who will repeat all the mistakes the United States has made in the Middle East in the past, or someone who wants, like Barack Obama, to pursue a new path. I think that she could actually make that case politically if she were not if Joe Biden did not actually have a veto power over what she can say on foreign policy.
Basically, I mean, I think just case in point, somebody like Obama would have been better in this situation, and would have not been so okay with getting publicly humiliated by Benjamin Netanyahu on the national stage, or international stage, every single day.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, people haven't fully processed how bad Biden is. I actually think that a fair number of Republican presidents, like Reagan and Bush Sr.,
George H.W. Bush would have been better.
Yeah, would not have allowed this war to have gone on this long. Would have actually put the priorities of the United States above this. But it has to be said, I mean, Biden, it's partially the ideological Zionism, but it's also partially this hold of this idea of an Abraham Accords has on him. I mean, for Biden, foreign policy is basically about building alliance systems. It's collecting cards for him for young kids, right? I built up NATO. I have more members in NATO. There's this alliance system in the Pacific. I can never pronounce it. ACAS, ASAS, whatever the hell. Australia, New Zealand, the United States, and he keeps boasting about
AUKUS,
that. AUKUS, yeah. I'm the guy that built up AUKUS, as if one voter in a million knows what the hell AUKUS is. And Biden thinks the same way about the Middle East. I'll be the guy that gets the Abraham Accords done. I mean, but is foreign policy just about building these alliance systems that allow you to sell more weapon systems, or is that about negotiating with other countries
with diplomacy? And there's no question that a guy that Phil Gordon with his record, it's distinct from that. It's more about de-escalation versus that. I mean, we're getting a lot of angry IMs, including I'm called a ditzy moron here. Thank you for your membership. I mean, look, it's just my honest view of the situation, and Jeet, I think you're on point about it.
And I would say there are limits to how far Harris will go. I'm not super confident that the United States will ever robustly support Palestinian human rights. And in fact, I think that the best hope for the Palestinians is a kind of American withdrawal from the Middle East and to bring in other parties, other nations that can negotiate it. I mean, one of the striking things with the Biden era is that China has done more for diplomacy in the Middle East than the United States has. China was the one that negotiated de-escalation between Saudi Arabia and Iran. China was the one that negotiated the end of the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. So I think there's a way in which, like, if the United States is like committed to like endless hostility, that's just going to create a path for other powers to move in and do actually the work that people want to see done, which is negotiation.
If your position is just in the interest of furthering American power, like from a realpolitik perspective, as you say, you can make that case.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.